The novel edition, you do feel the brotherhood and the camaraderie with the greasers more than the theatrical cut, because the theatrical cut, you really never see them all together. You know, you see Pony and Johnny a lot together. You see Pony Johnny in Dallas, but you never see them all together. So you never really buy the fact that they're a group of friends. You just know they're friends just because they say that they're greasers.
Let's do it for Johnny, man. We'll do it for Johnny.
The Outsiders. Pony Boy. Dallas. Johnny. S.E. Hinton's classic novel comes to the screen. The Outsiders. Directed by Francis Coppola.
Alright, y'all, so I got another throwback banger today, another retro review, and I'm being joined once again by my main man, Dave, from Interpreting the Stars. So, this is wrapping up our little gangster series, is that what you want to call it? Because I had him watch the Godfather movies, I had him watch the Warriors, and he's not a fan of gang movies at all, but I was trying to convert him, and I picked out this movie, I said, because this one is not, it's not officially a gang movie, but it kind of is a gang movie, but it's a gang movie with some heart, you know, with characters that you can kind of get behind, you know what I mean? So that's why I picked out The Outsiders, the classic story of the Greasers and the Socs. Pony Boy, who's the baby of the bunch, he is not your average greaser. He loves poetry, he loves looking at sunsets. You know, he's not the average tough guy that likes to pull out switchblades and smoke cigarettes and stuff. You know, he does smoke cigarettes, but he's different from the rest of the greasers, but that's still his crew, though. Those are his boys, and he's about to get killed by one of the Socs, and his buddy Johnny, played by Ralph Macchio, stops the Soc from killing him by having to kill the Soc, and they have to escape to a farm where they hide out from the law. And Dave, as you said, that's where that Brokeback Mountain moment almost happened, but thank God that it didn't. So I was introduced to The Outsiders from the book. So I read the novel back when I was in elementary school, and I fell in love with it. This is like the greatest thing ever. And when I heard there was a movie that was adapted from it, I couldn't wait to watch it. So I'll be honest, the first time I watched The Outsiders on regular TV, I hated it because they cut out so much from the book, but not realizing that's what a lot of movies do. They cut out a lot from the novel. They can't, everything that's on the page does not translate well on the screen, especially all that spooning and cuddling and all that stuff. So a lot of the book was left out, and I felt disappointed. It felt like an incomplete film. I mean, you know, spoilers, you know, if you ever see The Outsiders, I don't care. Well, Rashad, you should. That movie was made in 1983. Fuck y'all. So even when Johnny dies, right, and the gang is all sad, like, oh no, Johnny died, but in the theatrical cut, you never see Johnny with the rest of them. You only see Johnny with Pony Boy and with Two Bit in Dallas, you know, but you don't see him with Patrick Swayze. So when Darry is like, oh no, Johnny's dead, you know, or say hi to Johnny for us, you never see him and Johnny together on the same screens. Scene, not screen, scene. Think before you speak. Yeah, you just feel the camaraderie and the brotherhood more in the novel edition cut of the film, which you watched. And at first I cringed. I was like, Dave, no, man, you should have watched the theatrical cut. But there's pros and cons of both of them, and I kind of want to just do my own cut and kind of splice them together and take out, you know, the bad from both of them and create the ultimate Outsiders experience, because that's what I had when I read the book. So the first time I watched the theatrical cut, I really did not like it, but as time went on, it became one of my favorites. And the first time I watched the novel edition, I hated it because they took out Carmine Coppola's epic score and they replaced it with a bunch of Elvis Presley tracks, I guess trying to copy Martin Scorsese, but it just did not fit the film. It didn't fit the tone and the look of the film. It was just totally out of place, and I'm like, just take that out, put the Carmine soundtrack back in, take a couple of those sus scenes out, and then we'll be okay. Before I continue my thoughts about The Outsiders, I'm going to give the floor to Dave. And Dave, tell me, bro, what you think about The Outsiders. And by the way, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The link is going to be in the description, Interpreting the Stars. Dave is a very knowledgeable film critic and has a lot of hot takes, okay? One reason I like collaborating with Dave is because, you know, I never know what he's going to say as far as like what he thinks about a film. Because out of all our peers, I could kind of guess, you know, like for example, Perez or Q Reviews or Blacktastic, I kind of know their taste in film, so I kind of know what they're going to like and what they're not going to like. But see, with Dave's different because Dave, he just has a lot of different views on films that are considered great. and films that are considered not so great by people, he sees the best in. You know what I'm saying? So total opposite from what a lot of us think, but I dig that though because I just want to say, okay, what's Dave going to think about this movie? So, anyways, the floor is yours, bro. What do you think about The Outsiders?
Hey, what's up? It's Dave back on Rashad's channel to discuss another gang movie, or I guess you might call these people hoodlums. Not full-on gangsta, definitely not mafia, but it's in that ballpark as we're talking about greasers and soches in The Outsiders. The Outsiders focuses on two rival gangs, the poor greasers and rich soches. As things get heated up, somebody ends up dead before an all-out war breaks out. We've seen this before, of course. I mean, I think I told Rashad after I watched the movie, it felt very much like I was watching the love child of West Side Story and Grease, and yet it wasn't a musical. The only person singing was the king himself, Elvis Presley, who takes up 90% of the soundtrack. Now, Rashad told me that that's only true for the director's cut. The theatrical has an actual composed score. And that actually shocked the crap out of me because music's everything and can make or break a film. Not only that, but the director's cut is longer, going on 2 hours, which is what, almost a full half hour longer than the theatrical version? Again, that can make or break the pacing. And guys, I think I actually got the short end of the stick here because even without seeing the theatrical version, it sounds way better. I can tell that this movie is iconic though. I can tell that it's well shot and well planned out overall. But I'd be lying if I said I loved the pacing and the music. It was long, it was slow, it was boring. And narratively, I just didn't understand why some things happened the way they did when they did. Like there wasn't a proper buildup of momentum for certain scenes. There's this war at the end of the movie and it felt out of place because like 60% of the movie, the entire second act, all took place at this abandoned church focusing on these two kids that ran away, and the movie truly does slow down to a halt during that moment. In fact, it gets so slow that due to all the cuddling, spooning, snuggling during sunset moments, I was pretty darn sure that we were gonna get a Brokeback Mountain moment, but we didn't. But honestly, at this point, no longer do you really care about this feud between rival gangs because it was like, okay, now these two people got away. What are they gonna do now? At one point, there was even a heroic moment between the two, including a sacrifice where it's almost like, you know, they make up for all the harm that they caused in life. They can now return as heroes. They can return as changed people who learned a life lesson. And then what happens? They come back to town and they fight the rival gang anyway, learning absolutely nothing in the process. More people have to die to learn that lesson. And if so, then what was the point of the church? What was the point of the entire second act? I'm asking narratively, because at this point, not only was it slow, but apparently it all served no purpose. The only thing that I knew about this movie was the line, "Stay golden, pony boy." I heard that my entire life. And apparently I heard it wrong. It's not "Stay golden, pony boy." It's "Stay gold." Stay gold, pony boy. I'm sorry, no, but that sounds stupid. The adjective version of gold is golden, which flows more naturally. Stay gold just sounds dumb. Earlier in the movie, Pony Boy bleaches his hair golden, and I was convinced that that line had something to do with his hair and keeping it the way that it was because it looked fire. I mean, it doesn't look better blonde, but I was still convinced that it had something to do with that, and again, I was wrong. Can we talk about the cast though? This was basically an ensemble film. Everybody here is recognizable. You got Ralph Macchio, Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and even Tom Cruise. That's right, guys, Tom Cruise is in this 1983 film, and he's basically sidelined. His entire role is known as the guy that backflips off of cars. It's basically the only thing that he does in the entire movie. To be fair though, he wasn't really famous yet. I just find it fascinating that the main character here, Ponyboy, was the only one in this greasers gang that was kind of unknown. I'm not entirely sure if I've ever seen him in anything else. The rest of the gang though, super well known. In general, Rashad, I don't hate the movie. As shocking as that might sound, I didn't hate it. Like I said, it did remind me of West Side Story and Grease, both movies and or stories that I enjoy. It made me want to listen to some Grease soundtrack stuff actually, but I do consider a majority of it to be absolutely boring. Maybe that's the pacing, maybe that's the weird Elvis music, maybe it's a combination of the two. But that was the main thing that had me checking my watch at the end of the day. Everything else was technically well made if I was to be completely honest. So let's take a look at my final score, which I gave The Outsiders a C- letter grade. Final overall score of 57%, 57 out of 100 possible stars. But you will notice the giant gap in my unbiased and biased scores. My unbiased score is actually 70% because like I said, it's well made and I can tell that. But again, that boredom did take me down to 44%, leveling it all out to that C- grade that you see. I gotta thank you though, Rashad, for inviting me to a film that I never heard about before I saw it. But as soon as I heard that Ponyboy name, I was like, that's a stupid name. And then I was like, oh wait, no, I know that line. And so throughout the rest of the movie, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for that line, and then I learned that I heard it wrong my entire life, and then my entire life was crushed. My entire life is a lie! Anyway, I'll hand it back your way to finish out your thoughts on The Outsiders. Take it away, man, and until next time, peace out.
All right, you know what? That's fair enough. That's fair enough. That's like, like I said, I picked this one out for you because it's not the typical gang movie. It's about gangs, but it's about, a member of the gang that's not like the rest of them, and he actually just wants to be a normal kid, but he's a victim of circumstance. You know what I'm saying? Like, his parents died. He's being raised by his brother. He's surrounded by a bunch of street dudes. So, Ponyboy's not supposed to make it. Okay, statistically, he's not supposed to make it, but he just has this innocence about him. That's what Johnny means by saying "stay gold, Ponyboy." Like, you keep your innocence. Everything that you like poetry and looking at sunsets, man, stay that way is a good way to be. Don't be a cold-hearted prick like Dallas. Even though Dallas wasn't a cold-hearted prick, he loved the boys, but everything outside of that, he didn't give a fuck about you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like I said, shout out to Matt Dillon as Dally. He killed it. Every time I watch that scene where the police are chasing him and they shoot him down with the Carmine Coppola score, it works. But with the rock soundtrack, it doesn't work. And there's even moments of the film where Carmine Coppola's score really elevates the scene, and he just took it out altogether. Like the scene where Matt Dillon, he's stabbing the bed when he's in the hospital. He's like, man, we gotta get even with those socials. You do it for Johnny, man. You do it for Johnny. And that scene gave you chills because of the score. Like Dave said, a score can make or break a film. And when he totally just took the music out, they kind of sucked the soul out of the movie. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, I want to create my own cut of this movie so I can have my personal favorite Outsiders experience and feel what I felt when I read the book. Okay, so not gonna ramble on. You already know I really dug the movie. It has its flaws, yeah. Some narratively it's not really tight knit. You know what I'm saying? And in the novel edition, you do feel the brotherhood and the camaraderie with the Greasers more than the theatrical cut, because the theatrical cut, you really never see them all together. You see Pony and Johnny a lot together. You see Pony, Johnny, and Dallas, but you never see them all together. So you never really buy the fact that they're a group of friends. You just know they're friends just because they say that they're Greasers, and they live in the same neighborhood. But you never really all see them together until the Rumble itself. Now, the Rumble was dope. The Rumble still holds up to this day. Now, Dave, I know you were saying the Rumble came out of nowhere, but no. This Rumble was mentioned throughout the movie, so this war's been brewing for a long time, but of course, it got sidelined because of when Johnny killed the social, he had to go to the farm, okay, it really focused on that, and their friendship when they got back, okay, this Rumble is happening, this is to settle the score once and for all, who's bad? Michael Jackson style, okay, have to have this big-ass Rumble, and of course, the heartbreaking scene where Johnny dies, and even when I read the book, that shit was sad as hell. And Ralph Macchio really sold it. And yes, he was unusually dark for this movie. If you didn't know who Ralph Macchio was, you would think he was a light-skinned brother because he's like the same skin complexion I am. You know what I'm saying? So he was dark for the movie. But yeah, he sold the part. You really felt for his character. But the book really does go more into why Johnny was the way he was, because he got jumped by a couple of soldiers and they beat the shit out of him. And he just had PTSD real bad after that. And the movie kind of talks about that. But you really don't, unless you really paid attention, you don't get it. You're like, well, why is Johnny all nervous and, and all weirded out? Like what the fuck is up with this kid, But that's because he's traumatized. Like, he gets abused at home by his parents, and these socials whooped his ass. So Johnny's just like a nervous wreck. And the gang, you heard a couple of times, like, okay, we can't get along without you. Without Johnny, Johnny holds the gang together. But when you watch the theatrical cut, you don't feel that because you never see Johnny with the rest of them. So when they say, yeah, Johnny, we couldn't get along without you, okay, we never see that. So it's stuff like that that still irks me when I watch the movie, but still has a special place in my heart. I have a bias towards it because I grew up watching this movie. I just have love for it, but I will acknowledge that it's heavily flawed. So if somebody were to have strong opinions about it, I really couldn't argue with it, but still it's so iconic, I just don't give a damn, and I still want to do my cut. So Dave, thank you for joining me once again, bro. Looking forward to our next collab. But once again, link is in the description. Make sure you subscribe to Interpreting the Stars. Go do it now. And that's it, and that's all. All right, what you think about The Outsiders? Comment freely below. Let me know what you thought. This is Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.